In this video, we're going to talk about adding graphics and text into Adobe Muse. So when it comes to working with graphics, if you're a regular print designer, you're probably comfortable already with working with Photoshop and Illustrator. And the good thing is that you can still use these programs to create and edit graphics, and then you can place them right into Muse, just like you would with InDesign. The workflow is already built out for you. If you're going to be working in Muse, when you are creating your graphics, you're going to want to be able to bring them in as web graphics, so things like JPEGs, GIFs, PNGs, but you can also bring in native Photoshop files as well, PSD files. So let's take a look and see how this works. So we're just going to go to the home page for now, and I'm going to delete this block that I had created there. And if you'll notice that when I did that, the footer went down. We had talked about this in a previous video about the smart guides, how when you move things down, it actually resizes it for you, and you can see that there. So just a little follow-up on that, but let's get rid of this. I'm just going to delete that out of there. So I'm going to do place, so file and place. I'm going to go to this hero image I have here. Now I've got two options here. The first one I can do is I can just click and place, click it, and the entire image will come out at 100%. So that's exactly how I had it sized in, let's say, Photoshop. Now if I don't want to do that, I can just undo it. I hit Control Z, and I can also drag it out to whatever size I want. Now I don't have to hold down anything to keep the proportions normal. I know in other programs you have to hold down your, I think it's the Command key. You know what, I do this so often that my fingers just kind of do it and I don't think about it. But normally you'd have to hold on, I think it's the Shift key, to keep your proportion straight. And here you don't have to do that. You can just, it will automatically keep a proportion for you. So here you'll see that it was at 60%. And in fact, even as I resize it, it'll show me what percentage it's at. So 60, 63, 68, and so forth. When you've finished positioning, you can just hit Escape to go back, or you can click away onto your board here, your drawing board, to get away from that particular image if you want to go work on another piece of another property within there. To manage this, we're going to use our Assets panel. That's located over here on the right. It says Assets, and you'll see we've got the background image that we had created before for the tiling. You can see that down here a little bit. And then we've got our front hero image. That's this one. Whichever one I select is the one that it's going to display over here, and you'll see how it highlights. So down here, Symphony, up here, front hero. That's pretty handy. Okay. Now, what we can do while we're in here is we've got a lot of different options, including things like embedding a link. But what I wanted to show here was edit image properties. Now, I tend to think of that in terms of Photoshop, where you go in and you're going to change your file name, but that's not the case here. Here we're going to add the option of a tooltip. That's what shows up. In fact, if you look, there's a tooltip showing up right there. So, and then you can have alternative text, which of course you always want, both for SEO and for accessibility. So you want to describe it plainly and clearly. Now when we go to preview this, we'll see we have our image, and hopefully, there you go, you've got your tooltip. This is a tooltip. Okay. Let's see here what happens when we embed a link. That didn't do quite what I had expected it to. I'm going to unembed the link there. That's not generally how I've tried to use links with this, so I'm not surprised that that didn't work, but I was hoping maybe it was something different than what I had expected it to be. So. Now, you can also place Photoshop documents in here. This was just a plain old JPEG. What I'd like to show you now is how to place a Photoshop file in, and how having different layers can make for a really cool button if you have a layer set up for each rollover state of a button that you want to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to place this, let me back up. There's two ways to do this. The first way we could do this is just with File and Place, just like we did with the other item. Now let's take a look at this here. This is a little pretend logo. And when you bring it in, it asks if you want the composite layer. So do you want everything, all your different layers, or do you want to import a specific layer that you have? And in this case, we'll just do the composite. Okay. And again, you can just click on it and it will show up there 100%, or you can resize it however you need to. Now, let's say we wanted this to, here, let's go over here in preview and you can kind of see, okay, it's just strictly your logo and that's it. Now, let's say we wanted to go over here and we wanted to have it so that this was a link and we want to have a rollover state on it. Then let me show you how to do that. So in this case, we go to File, and instead of, here we go, File, and then Place, but instead of regular Place, we're going to do Place Photoshop Button. So again, I'm going to the same item, but this has several layers in it. And now it's giving me the option to add different rollover states. So the normal state would be the composite, or we could just say black, right? Then the rollover state's going to be green, and then the mouse down state will be brown, and the active state will be blue. And you see how each one of these layers we had already set up in Photoshop, and now we're just importing it in. We know where we want our layer states to be. So, okay. Now, when I set this in here, you don't see the rollover state. We have to go to Preview in order to view that. So here we've got over, on click, and then, well, you won't see visited because there's really no link there. But it would be blue if we did. So over, click. So again, you'll just have to like pay attention that, you know, if you put this in as a PSD, and you'll notice there it says PSD as well, you'll see your different rollover states here too. So it just, visually it's kind of difficult to see unless you have your Assets panel open here. So it's a really easy way if you have layers in Photoshop to create a rollover effect. So let's exit out of here and let's go to our plan area here and let's go to About page for this. We're going to add some other graphics to this page. So I'm going to go to File and Place. I'm going to go to the Staff section here and I'm going to just, I'm going to select all of these. So I'm going to click up here and then I'm going to hold my Shift key down to collect all of them and hit Open. Now what happens here is you'll see I've got the first one, the first image, and then to the right there, there's like a little tiny number 6 beside it, and it's showing me that I've got 6 graphics loaded into this cursor at this time. So I can place this image, okay. And then if I don't really want this next one, I can use the arrow keys to toggle to the next one. So let's say I want her next, and then now I want to go back to that other guy. So now I have all of those selected. And they've all been placed at 100%. So in order to line them up, you can just go in and you can use Smart Guides, or you could also pull down some guides here, which I like as well. But one of the easiest things to do is just like you would do in Photoshop or Illustrator, and that is to distribute them evenly. So let's go up to the Align panel. That's at the top right here. It says Align, and we can distribute them evenly. It would help if I selected them first. All right. Okay, let's try that again. Oh, I see. It's only selecting these 3 here. Looks like I got my selection correct here, so let's distribute those evenly and we'll get them lined up. Okay. For some reason that just did not want to cooperate with me, and we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to distribute them evenly, and now they're all kind of lined up there. And then we can grab all of these. Oops. Up with these, and you'll see you start to get your alignment. It'll automatically snap there for you. I personally think alignment would be better for me, for my purposes, to use the snap grids. So I tend to like that a little better. I think that just works better for me. But the distribution is available to you, especially if you want to get them perfectly even. And I'm just moving this up. Now again, we can see how our footer automatically moves down if we need it to. And we'll have it snap to that alignment. Now we can also transform these and make them smaller. So like, let's say that I'm just not loving how big they were. We can always make them smaller. We want to make sure we get them proportionally, because in this case we can squish them and we don't really want to do that. So there, that fits a little better in the content area that I had expected. And we can always do object group, just like anything else, so that they're all one big object, or we can ungroup as well. So that makes life a lot easier there. And I'm just hitting save every now and then so that if I have to back out, I can go do that pretty easily. Next, let's talk a little bit about adding text and working with text in Muse. So just like photos are, working with text inside Muse is also very similar to other Creative Suite applications like InDesign or Illustrator. There's a panel that you can use to control your font, your style, your alignment, but then there's also some very web-centric settings that you're going to want to be aware of. We also have the ability to define character and paragraph styles. So for example, defining within Muse your heading 1 style is a really smart thing to do. You don't have to do it, but I don't see why you wouldn't do that. That way, if somebody comes back in and says, hey, I want all the headers changed to black from brown, all you have to do is change that defined style, update it, and it updates across every H1 in this example. So there's no reason not to do it, and there's every reason to do it. All right, so we are still here on the About page, so let's maybe bring in some copy. Okay, so here's the thing with working with Muse. Bringing in text from outside areas, it's going to all come in unformatted. So no matter what you do, you're basically putting in plain text. And here's, you've got your example where you can put this in and just click on it, resize it, and you'll get your text that you had imported. That was from a TXT file, a text document. So now we've got our example text in there. One thing you should know is since you can only place a text file or copy and paste in text, again, all unformatted, you cannot place a Word file in there. So if you have somebody send you a Word file, you'll want to either copy and paste it all in, have it in plain text, and then reformat it, or you want to try and encourage people to send you text files, just plain text files, and maybe indicate in another document if there's any specific formatting that they want for that. I personally like that. Anytime I tend to work with text, I tend to just always do plain text and then style it myself anyway, no matter what it is. So for me, that's not really a burden, but if you're used to just copying and pasting something in from Word and having it format for you magically, you may be a little disappointed with that. So you can click and drag this, it's going to flow. There's no limit, there's no too small, there's no too big. It's just going to go wherever you tell it to do. With a piece of paper, you've got that limitation. With this, you don't. So you can just kind of do it however you want. You'll see it'll automatically flow around that. This is a little insane, so we'll bring this up here. So let's go look at some fonts here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to close my Assets panel here, and I'm going to go up in the top right to the Text panel, and this gives me my options. Now we've got 3 basic options to use with this. We've got web fonts, okay. We've got standard fonts, that's the ones you're used to always seeing, Arial, Comic Sans, Courier, New, Geneva, Georgia, etc. And then we've also got the system fonts. Now you'll notice here that System Fonts notes that it exports as an image. That is a big no-no. That is a last resort, and I mean last resort. That's a terrible idea. You don't want to do that. Now with web fonts, you have access to Adobe Typekit, and there's thousands of fonts on there, so I would highly recommend using that if you want something that is not just a standard basic font. But the only way I would tell you to do a system font would be if a client, for example, absolutely insists that it be that, or let's say it's a logo and it's in that one place, it has to be that one font. Okay, you know, that's fine. But anything else you do not want it exporting out as an image. It's just bad for usability, bad for everything. Bad. Don't do that. But you can import a ton of fonts from other places, and you can also, you know, if you're not using WebKit, you can also have your own that you can import as well. Okay, so let me just change this to no, not Comic Sans. How about we change this to Courier New, because that's pretty obvious. And we can change the color, of course. Let's do something a little more readable. And you've got all your different style options that you would have available for that particular font. Okay, so let's go to Window and Paragraph Styles. And this is where we're going to define our different styles that we have that we're going to use to create continuous and continuity across the site through our headers. So let's figure out this one, how we want this to really look here. So let's go back up to text and make this like a little bit bigger, and that kerning is like way off. Okay, well, ooh, not what I wanted. There, okay. So we'll just do it kind of funky like that. Sure, why not? Make it in italics too, just so that you can kind of see the difference here. And then we're going to go in and we're going to define this. So to do that, we can just click this Create a New Style. It's like the little, almost like you're creating a new layer if you're used to working in Photoshop. And we're going to call this H1. And it's going to output it as a span tag. Okay, so then we can just go here, and now anytime we want a header, we can just click right on our H1. Now let's say we want this to be a subhead. We're like, this is insane, this looks terrible. We're going to go back to our text, and let's make this a little smaller. There we go. That still looks terrible, but hey, you get the point. Yeah, designers, don't judge me, okay? This is just a demonstration. So now we're going to create a new character style, and we're going to call this one H2. All right, so now if let's say we're like, nope, this isn't really a heading one, we're going to change it to H2. No, we were wrong, it's H1. So you see how this defines it across here. And if you change this in one page, and then it will ask you over here, it'll say like that there's been some changes, and then you can just commit those changes, and it will change across every page that is using that style. So it's very, very convenient. It's a great way to go. And I recommend defining that for all different things here. So let's say like, let's click on the words like graphic design industry. We can even do it, we can set it up that we want a specific style for links. If I was being consistent, I would do ahref. And we're going to do an underline, and that's good enough for now. So now if we want to make this a link style, and these aren't actually links yet, we would just click on that, and that should style that for us. So we've got character styles and we've got paragraph styles, and that's another way you can do that too. I think looking at this a little more carefully, I think I would probably choose to make these your paragraph styles as opposed to character styles. I was looking to see if I could click and drag it in. I think that is probably a better option. So I would say for these, let's define those down as opposed to character styles, let's define those as paragraph styles, and then go from there. All right, so I'm going to redefine this here under paragraph styles. Sorry about the confusion. Okay, now you'll see here when I changed it, there's this little plus symbol. When you click on that, it's going to commit that. Oh, maybe not. Let's try that again. Oh, I did that before it worked. It was just like as simple as committing to it. Okay, there we go. I wonder why that didn't work the first time. It should have. It seemed like that should have worked the first time I did that, but whatever. Not sure why that didn't want to work for me. Okay, and then same thing here. We'll just make that gigantic. So we'll want to undefine these here, because this right now is like linked to that. Okay. Let's go over to the design, to the plan here. And let's go back in and add that image again, because I want to show you how you can choose styles from an image. So I'm just going to go to File and Place. I'm going to go find my hero image here. Click Open. And I'm going to put it in at 100% here. Now let's say I wanted to create a box that has that specific color in it. What I can do is I can go to the eyedrop filter here, and this is going to sample from anywhere. So I can sample from this image and pick the color for that. If I don't like that one, I can just go back in and try again and sample it again. So this is pretty cool. I think this is a really unique way to do this. So if you have an image and you want to sample it, you don't have to sample it in Photoshop and then bring in the hexadecimal or the RGB colors. You can just go in and sample it right in Muse. And then you can also choose to create new swatches with that as well. So let's say this is a color that I know I'm going to use all the time. I'm going to do add a swatch. And you can either rename it or you can keep it your RGB values and click OK. And then that swatch will be permanently available to you for this project. It's really nice. You'll be able to create your own color palettes for a particular project and reuse and reuse and reuse over and over again. In the next video, we're going to talk about interactivity with Muse. See you then.